Strap in, because we are diving headfirst into a seismic shift that is completely rewriting the rulebook of pro tennis as we know it. We are living through a moment where the WTA pecking order isn't being rattled by wicked serves or baseline rallies, but by a sheer, unstoppable cultural tidal wave. If I put you on the spot right now and asked, who is the biggest ticket seller in the women's game, your gut would probably point you toward the usual suspects. Maybe you would say Coco Gauff, the American wonderkind who snatched a slam title and stole millions of hearts along the way. Or perhaps Aryna Sabalenka, that Belarusian force of nature whose on-court ferocity is matched only by her massive global fame. You might even bet on Iga Świątek, the tactical genius holding the rankings in a chokehold. These are the modern-day gladiators. After all, these are the superstars raking in seven-figure sponsorship deals, owning primetime TV, and plastering their faces on billboards from London to New York. But here is the twist. What if I told you that Gauff isn't the main attraction in women's tennis right now? According to the sport's top insiders, there is one name sparking absolute pandemonium and drawing crowds we have simply never seen before. What would you say if I told you Sabalenka doesn't even come close? We're breaking down a bombshell revelation just dropped by former ATP pros on the hit podcast Nothing Major. We are talking about a player who has officially been stamped as a bona fide rock star, Alexandra Eala, a 20-year-old Filipino phenomenon who is single-handedly rewriting the script on fan engagement. You heard that right. American legends Steve Johnson, Sam Querrey, and John Isner are saying that Eala, who was grinding through the challenger circuit outside the top 100 just a year ago, is now the most electric presence on tour. The hype surrounding her? It is being called mind-blowing, insane, and absolutely off the charts. From the deserts of Doha and Dubai to the heat of the Australian Open, she is packing stadiums to the rafters everywhere she lands. Tennis rarely sees this kind of worship. It feels less like a polite country club gathering and more like a rowdy football match. To really grasp the magnitude of this story, we have got to look at the hard numbers, the insider quotes, and the undeniable reality unfolding in the stands. We are talking about Eala's pre-tournament pressers pulling in. Over 171,000 online viewers, blowing past the 29,000 who tuned in for Coco Gauff and Carlos Alcaraz, and totally eclipsing the 9,000 watching Aryna Sabalenka. Since the outer courts simply cannot handle the legions of die-hard Filipino fans trekking from miles away to witness their national idol tournament. Directors have been forced to scramble schedules, bumping a player ranked 31st in the world onto center stage and showcase courts. When they asked Steve Johnson if she was the main attraction, he didn't even blink, stating flat out that she is making a bigger splash than any rising star we have seen in ages. John Isner pointed to the massive, untapped power of the Philippine market, a fan base flooding the tennis world with an infectious, unstoppable energy. But this isn't just a story about a talented kid finding her groove. This is a sociological phenomenon. It is about representation, the global Filipino diaspora, and how a single athlete can become a beacon of national pride on the world stage. Eala's miraculous sprint to the Miami Open semifinals last year, where she took down multiple Grand Slam winners, sparked her meteoric rise, leading to a career-high ranking and that headline-grabbing showdown with Coco Gauff in Dubai. Even the American icon had to pause, grab the mic, and explicitly thank Eala for bringing an entirely new army of fans to the sport. Gauff might have won the match, but the message was crystal clear. The stands were packed to the bursting point, and the vibe was absolutely electric. Alexandra Eala has arrived, and the world is coming with her. Let's put the concept of being a draw in pro tennis into real perspective. Historically, ticket sales and TV ratings were driven by fierce rivalries and massive personalities. Think about the clash between John McEnroe's volcanic temper and Bjorn Borg's ice-cold precision. Remember the baseline wars between Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova, a rivalry that transcended sport and defined the 1970s and 80s. We watched Andre Agassi become box office gold as his neon gear and rebel attitude dragged a whole new generation to Wimbledon and Flushing Meadows. And of course, we lived through the era of Serena Williams, a generational titan whose mere presence at a tournament guaranteed sold-out venues, shattered attendance records, and commanded a level of media hype that most sports can only dream of. Serena wasn't just a tennis player, she was a global movement. Since Serena walked away, the WTA has been in a state of flux, desperately searching for a new force to carry the torch. Incredible champions have stepped up. Ash Barty brought a beautiful classic game before bowing out early. Iga Świątek has set a terrifyingly high standard of excellence. Aryna Sabalenka has thrown in undeniable charisma and raw power. Coco Gauff typically scripts the perfect tale of a young genius seizing her destiny under the brightest lights of the world stage. But the phenomenon surrounding Alexandra Eala is forged from a completely different fire and spirit. Even for the gifted, the path to tennis immortality is usually rigid. You must conquer a Grand Slam. You must break the top 5. Big corporate money flows in. Then, the massive international armies of fans begin to march behind you. Fame is usually the reward for years of winning. Alexandra Eala is taking a sledgehammer to that entire rulebook. She ranks 31 globally. She has yet to lift a single Grand Slam singles trophy above her head. In truth, she is still sharpening her blade, refining her craft against the brutal elite of the WTA Tour. Yet, her legion of followers already dwarfs those of legends with multiple titles. From the Americas to the Middle East, she turns standard tournaments into deafening, Super Bowl-style spectacles. We must rethink the very soul of fandom. What possesses someone to buy a ticket, paint their face, and scream until their throat is raw? For the Filipino diaspora, Alexandra Eala is far more than just an athlete chasing a ball. She is the living, breathing avatar of their identity, their resilience, and their dreams on the global stage. The Philippines burns with passion for sport, having long ruled the boxing rings and basketball courts. Tennis was once a niche curiosity, but Eala unlocked the magic, turning a nation of over 100 million people into an army of zealots. The sheer magnitude of backing is awe-inspiring. It shoved her into the top 100. It smashed open the gates to the Grand Slams. She battled her way to her debut tour final on the slick grass courts of Eastbourne. She claimed her first main draw victory at the US Open, becoming the first Filipina in history to ever conquer that summit. Ending the 2025 season in the top 50 was just the prelude to the absolute chaos of 2026. If 2025 was the spark, 2026 is the raging inferno. Her arrival in Melbourne exposed the logistical crisis her fame ignites. Scheduling her opener on Court 6 birthed a scenario organizers dread. Court 6 is a tiny outer stage, meant for quiet, early skirmishes. It stood no chance against the human tidal wave that crashed down upon it. Witnesses reported a crushing surge of Filipino fans creating a dangerous bottleneck. The walkways were completely choked. Thousands of supporters were left stranded at the gates, barred from entry despite arriving hours before the first serve. It was the chaos Steve Johnson warned about, made flesh. The tournament's infrastructure buckled under the weight of her star power. The frenzy only escalated as the tour swept into the Middle East. That region boasts one of the planet's highest concentrations of overseas Filipino workers. When Eala touched down for the Qatar Open in Doha, the atmosphere instantly crackled with voltage. Observers are not exaggerating when they call the crowds insane. The stands were packed to the bursting point. The noise was deafening. Every point she claimed sparked a roar that felt more like a World Cup final than a polite tennis match. But the Dubai Duty-Free Championships was where Eala truly carved her name in stone. Powered by a rapturous mob, Eala launched a brilliant run. She dismantled Baptiste, shocked the talented Paolini, and outlasted the veteran. With every triumph, her ranking rocketed upward, eventually vaulting her to a career-high 31. This phenomenal streak in Dubai set the table for a quarterfinal clash the world circled in red. Alexandra Eala versus Coco Gauff. The Dubai showdown between Alexandra Eala and Coco Gauff was more than just a contest of rackets. It was a fascinating crash of two distinct star systems. On one side of the net waited Coco Gauff. Gauff is the blueprint of the modern American superstar. She wields a Grand Slam pedigree, terrifying athleticism, a lethal backhand, and the polished armor of an athlete groomed for the throne. Opposite her stood Alexandra Eala, the ultimate underdog story turned planetary phenomenon. She entered as the statistical underdog, vastly less experienced, yet she wielded an intangible superpower, the crowd. Although the battleground was the Emirates, the arena belonged entirely to Eala. Gauff, sitting at world number 4, is used to having the stadium firmly in her corner. But on this night, she was the antagonist to a legion of passionate Filipino hearts. The match itself was a masterclass from Gauff. Perhaps sensing the danger of letting the mob ignite, she came out with a level of focused intensity that was simply breathtaking. She shattered Eala's serve in the opening game, executing a ruthless tactical masterclass that hammered away at Eala's forehand without mercy. Gauff went on an absolute tear, claiming the first 10 games of the match in a row. Eala fought with everything she had, but Gauff's lead was simply too massive to overcome. The scoreboard read 6-love. 6-2 for the American, but the night's real headline didn't happen during the rally. It happened during the on-court interview, where Coco Gauff's true class and intellect took center stage. Microphone in hand, standing center court, Gauff stared down a stadium packed with people who had been actively cheering for her defeat. She didn't get angry. She met the moment with absolute grace. "Thanks for coming out, guys," Gauff started. "I know most of you are backing Alex, but honestly, it's amazing to play in a packed house. And I have to thank Alex for bringing a whole new crowd to our sport. I seriously appreciate it. I think it's incredible." That right there, that was a profound moment. Here is Coco Gauff, a global superstar, explicitly acknowledging that Alexandra Eala is single-handedly expanding the professional tennis audience. When an icon like Gauff validates the crowd energy that publicly, it cements the story this isn't just internet debate anymore. It is cold, hard reality. It fully backs the claim that Eala is a bigger draw right now than Aryna Sabalenka or even Coco Gauff herself. We need to really analyze what icons like Sabalenka and Gauff represent in this landscape. Aryna Sabalenka is the tour's apex predator. Her serve is a weapon of mass destruction, and her ground strokes hit with a ferocity few women can survive. Sabalenka pulls massive crowds because people are addicted to the spectacle of raw, unbridled power. But her appeal stays mostly within the traditional tennis bubble. She commands respect, awe, and admiration. Yet she doesn't ignite that visceral, flag-waving nationalistic fever. Coco Gauff is American tennis's golden child. She packs stadiums, especially in the States, bringing in a younger wave of fans glued to her social media. She is a phenomenal ambassador for the game, but what Eala is doing, that is something entirely different. Eala isn't just attracting tennis heads, she is turning everyday people into ticket-buying superfans purely through national pride and success. Put Aryna Sabalenka on a court in Dubai against a mid-ranked opponent, and sure, the stadium will be comfortable.